Welcome to the video. What kinds of triggers can an Azure function use? Now, a trigger is what we use to initiate our Azure function, and the trigger is required on every Azure function. So in this video, we're going to describe the different triggers that are available in Azure functions. I'm going to make sure that you have a good understanding of HTTP triggers and timer triggers and storage triggers, and we'll also talk about some of the new and cool triggers that are currently in preview. The HTTP trigger is very well known. This is a web request where the Azure function is waiting for access through a web request. And that could be either a GET request or a PUT request or update request. There are several different HTTP calls that could be made, and all of those calls can function as a trigger. Timer triggers are excellent if you're wanting to do something at a specific time or repeat every 15 minutes or 5 seconds or once a month. You can also omit the timer, and there's a manual trigger function so that you only run the function when you specify it and when you start it yourself. Azure Event Hubs, great for Azure functions because Azure Event Hubs are able to take events from massive amounts of devices. This is something that would be like for an array of sensors, many Internet of Things devices, all reporting into the central event hub. And the Azure Functions is great at processing those events. Azure Queues are one of the features that are available through an Azure Storage account. Azure Storage accounts, of course, can process files, and they can also be used as a kind of a basic messaging system. This is something similar to a RabbitMQ or Azure Service Bus, but the queue storage is great for its simplicity. Azure Blob Storage also gives us some nice functionality with Azure Functions because we can be monitoring either containers within an Azure Blob Storage or looking for a specific file. And those files can be used either to trigger something that sends a notification of a new file showing up. It could also be used to use those files themselves as an input. Event grids are really useful for processing events between Azure services. This is something that is useful for integration and automation with your Azure resources, such as Logic apps or other web apps. So that makes it a perfect fit for Azure Functions. Azure Cosmos DB is a platform as a service database offering. It's a database solution that uses NoSQL, expand elastically and automatically, super performant, and it can be used for any of your high-end database needs. Azure Service Bus is similar to the queue storage, but it's quite a bit more powerful. There are some very nice features with Service Bus, such as the ability to route messages with complex data paths. And you can also use Service Bus Relay to enable messaging and accessing the Service Bus from practically any network. So being able to integrate with Service Bus and use that for a trigger, that's going to be very useful. And finally, this is the new cool preview trigger that I mentioned. This is the external file, and I just love this one. For first, external file, I should say, it's connecting to different file services like OneDrive, Box, Dropbox, SharePoint, also FTP and SFTP. So a file shows up there, you can go ahead and process that file or take actions on it. The thing that I really love about external file is while many of these others are well known by developers and architects, being able to reach out to those general users or novice users and say, here's something that you can use to connect up to your own personal OneDrive and take some actions on it. That's just too cool. So I'm really excited about the external file. So we're ready now with our trigger knowledge. Next, we're going to talk about what languages you can use to write Azure functions.